New this morning, Gaza's Ministry of Health says another 14 people have died of malnutrition in the past 24 hours in Gaza. The health ministry says 147 people have died of starvation since 2023. Now, some aid is being allowed into the region, but the UN humanitarian chief says it is a, quote, drop in the ocean. Israel has paused its military operations for 10 hours a day for airdrops of aid boxes into Gaza, and this comes after more than 100 humanitarian aid agencies accused Israel of allowing mass starvation and called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. So for a closer look at the humanitarian crisis happening right now, I'm joined by Shayna Lowe, communications advisor with the Norwegian Refugee Council, and she's in Amman, Jordan this morning. Thanks for being with us on Your Morning.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Your organization was among those who were demanding the ceasefire, calling on Israel to allow aid to flow into Gaza. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seemed to deny yesterday that there's a need for it. Here's what he had to say.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
What's your aid organization's reaction to those statements?
Well, all you have to do is look at the images, listen to the doctors treating those who are malnourished, hear from the parents who have lost their children in the last few weeks to know that there is indeed a starvation crisis. It's widespread. It's something that we've been warning about for months now, ever since Israel implemented a near total siege of Gaza on March 2nd. Throughout the last 21, almost 22 months, we've struggled to get in aid in significant quantities. And now we're seeing the impact of this. We're seeing people dying each day due to a lack of food, due to a lack of treatment for malnutrition. And I fear that unless we have all of the crossings opened and aid is allowed to enter to scale, we are going to see many more people die.
For the aid that's right now being allowed to flow into Israel, we saw the video there of airdrops, but we were also showing pictures this morning of aid trucks that are moving through at least one crossing. What's included and what is needed?
So trucks have begun to enter from Egypt and Jordan. Those trucks include food, nutritional supplies, medical supplies, and hygiene kits. The quantity that's coming in is not enough, and the amount of the type of aid that's coming in is not enough to meet this crisis head on. For over 4 months, nearly 5 months, not a single shelter material has entered the Gaza Strip. Partners working to help those who have been redisplaced in the months since the ceasefire have literally zero aid to give. Additionally, there's a tremendous fuel shortage in Gaza. Fuel is needed to power the humanitarian response, to drive our trucks and deliver aid in order to power desalination plants, hospitals, and bakeries. And so, and then on top of that, there's a need for cooking gas. A colleague reminded me that much of the aid that's been delivered or is being delivered is aid that requires being cooked. Now, without any cooking gas, people are forced to spend hours a day salvaging for firewood or other things that they can burn in order to prepare a meal. We desperately need Israel to lift all restrictions on aid items and allow all aid, including fuel and shelter materials, to enter.
Well, you know, I was curious. So those airdrops that we're sharing with our viewers now, they had things like flour and sugar. But again, you know, you talked about no cooking gas. There's also not a lot of clean water in many of these areas. So you can't even mix any of this together and avoid disease. Not to mention those images we've been seeing of children who, because there's no diapers, are being wrapped in trash bags. Your own organization, the Norwegian Refugee Council, is struggling to get supplies in. So what are you hearing that's preventing them from providing those for people in Gaza?
Well, we haven't gotten a single piece of aid in since before the March 2nd siege, despite the fact that we have over 2,700 pallets of hygiene kits, which have been authorized to enter. We are not one of the organizations that's been approved to bring in aid. So our aid, despite being ready, despite us being able to dispatch it from Egypt and meet these needs, we are unable to. We desperately need not only for an increase in aid, but for all agencies that are operating within Gaza to have their aid enter so that we can distribute and fully participate in this response.
So when we talk about the response, so there is what's being described as a limited response in allowing some of the aid to come through. Israel, this is coming after Israel's faced international pressure from several countries, including our own here in Canada. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand yesterday writing that she spoke with her Israeli counterpart to, quote, seek assurances that trucks carrying Canadian aid would be allowed to enter Gaza. What impacts, though, I'm curious, do statements like these have, and what action is actually needed in order to get this aid through?
Well, we've seen for months now condemnation, pleas from the international community, but that hasn't been enough to bring about a ceasefire, to bring home the Israeli hostages, to stop this hell that the people of Gaza have been subjected to for the last 22 months. We need accountability. We need the international community to hold Israel accountable for its obligations under international law. Israel has an obligation to provide or facilitate humanitarian assistance to the Palestinians living under its occupation in Gaza. Until the international community works to hold Israel accountable and ensures that there are concrete actions beyond just condemnation, I fear that we will continue to see Israel violate international humanitarian law, and the people who will suffer the most are the innocent civilians in Gaza.
We began this interview with a quote from Israel's prime minister saying that he does not believe that there is mass starvation happening in Gaza right now. That's sort of the response that you were talking about to international pressure. Shayna Lowe, communications advisor with the Norwegian Refugee Council. It's great to speak with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.